Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. My name is Jeffrey Davis. We are streaming more stories about this economy, how to deal with this economy than ever before. And we appreciate it. And we can be heard on many versions of Radio Entrepreneurs on Facebook, Radio Entrepreneurs, LinkedIn, Radio Entrepreneurs on Twitter, Biz at Radio, at Biz on the radio, Instagram, Radio Entrepreneurs, YouTube, Radio Entrepreneurs, iTunes, Radio Entrepreneurs, Spotify, Radio Entrepreneurs, Google Play, Radio Entrepreneurs, and Stitcher, Radio Entrepreneurs. Sorry for that delay, Hindell. That's Hindell Grossman, and our correspondent and owner from Grossman and Associates. Today, we're going to talk about leadership in this changing economy and optimism. So that's something that's a lot of people are having trouble keeping their hands on right now.
Probably. Well, certainly Radio Entrepreneurs are doing a good job of being optimistic and posting all those social media locations so we can get the word out.
We're trying.
Wisdom you have to share. Yeah.
Good.
That's great. Okay, so if we're going to talk about leadership in COVID times, I guess it also applies to the non-COVID times, but I've been reading a lot on emotional intelligence, as we talked about last time. And so I wanted to latch today on the topic of optimism and what an impact that has on leadership, the ability to withstand defeat and take risks, and how powerful that is to move a business along and make it successful.
You know, I've told people that I can usually tell a good leader within about a half hour, an hour after meeting with them, and it's not always about intelligence. Rarely is about intelligence.
Yeah,
it's this desire to just get somewhere and not let the obstacles get in the way. I always say I pick up on this skill to run through brick walls.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I don't know how you pick up on that. You have good antenna, apparently. What do you think triggers it for you? So
you can just see it in the sense of their determination and their, it's sort of being a realist, understanding obstacles, but really seeing a desire to never turn back. And, I know you read the book about Winston Churchill and his speech, and they talk a lot about his speeches and how he could galvanize a nation during despair.
Yeah.
And I think, he always was able to communicate this belief quickly that they were going to win, regardless of what happened to them. And, I can pick up on that during some of my interviews with leaders. They don't express fear the way others express fear. They don't express pessimism in the same way others express pessimism. They talk about this ultimate goal and their drive to get there and how they've sort of suffered and their willingness to embrace suffering, almost like they enjoy it. So those are some of the things that I look for.
Challenges. Well, Winston Churchill is obviously a great example of his optimism through war. I mean, how he just had to keep positive way of thinking despite a lot of defeat and a lot of death and devastation during a time when there was obviously a very formidable foe in World War II. So he's a great example of it. Yeah, optimism does, I think, as much as intelligence, maybe even more than intelligence, keeps a person driven and gives them hope and gives them a goal and keeps them focused on reaching that goal despite the obstacles. And I think it's probably one of the top features of a good leader.
And do you feel that optimism has a relationship with goals? Are they a little bit more forward thinking? Does it help?
Well, I think if you have goals, you can, it makes you forward thinking because you have to, want to reach your goals. So it maybe makes you self-reflective of what worked and didn't work. And you can set a goal or have a strategy and you realize, I didn't reach the goal with that particular strategy, so I have to think about something else. So I think it has to make you more sensitive to what your plan is, whether it works, whether it doesn't work, and then be able to pivot and look at some other options. Hope is a very strong driver for optimism. I mean, it gives you the ability to keep moving forward, to keep analyzing yourself, and keep avoiding the sense of defeat and pessimism that I think is very destructive for a business and for a person.
So, you're an entrepreneur and a very successful entrepreneur. As you read about optimism in leaders, did you sort of recognize parts that reminded you of yourself?
Well, that's a good question. I was thinking about obstacles that I have overcome, for sure. Lots of personal ones and a couple of business ones, really more personal ones than business ones. Things like my own divorce, for example, that threatened to interfere with my goals, and I didn't let that happen. So, yeah, it gave me a sense of who I am and some of my strengths, and I think optimism is a strength of mine. Interesting, in this book I'm reading on emotional intelligence that I keep referring to, they talk about how testing potential employees for their optimism rather than for their intelligence actually was a better predictor of their success. Now, I don't know how you test for optimism, except for whatever antenna you have, if you could share with other people.
Well, I mean, my training has told me that a skilled and trained interviewer is much more predictive than any tool. And that's because if you ask the right questions, you get to see the person answering, their reaction as they're answering. If you're not sure about their answer, you're able to probe deeper into a person's reason and rationale for deciding something instead of just being coached to say something. When you're doing a paper to pencil tool, you don't have that ability to see a person's reaction to things or probe deeper into something.
Right.
So, some people are very skilled at answering questionnaires. They're very high IQ and they know how to sort of figure out the test, the tool. So, I do think that, but then again, most people aren't good interviewers. And I really believe most people aren't good interviewers. And most people have been taught through their career how to write resumes and be interviewed. So a good interviewer has to learn how to go what I would call off the grid, but not so far off the grid that you're going to get in trouble. You got to ask.
What do you think are good interview questions then?
Well, for me, it's not the questions, it's more conceptually. What I like to do, and I don't want to, it's too hard for me to answer in a short question. I didn't know you were going to interview me, but that's fine. I like it. My original first partner in this business was a world famous family therapist. And he used to say to me a couple of things. He used to say to me, people are like trees. That when you cut a tree, you see all their lines and you understand their growth and their experience and what years they had obstacles. And he said, when you're interviewing somebody, you want to go back and go through their family history and their developmental history. So you see how they've handled obstacles, if they've had obstacles, what their developmental process has been, how much stability there's been in their life, how they've handled instability, and how they've made their decisions. Were decisions made for them that they did not make them for themselves? So when you're getting the product, when you're getting a product at a certain point of their life, they are the product of a process. And so I like to go back and do a full history of a person. I'm not looking at their resume. That's how I answer that. I don't want to get in trouble. I sort of compare it to sort of buying dogs. For those of us that are pet owners, they always used to say to us, when you're going to buy a puppy, look at the parents, see the behavior of the parents. And I looked at, when I bought my dog, my buddy, I looked at certain predictors in his behavior, which he brought out all on his own. One, he was very responsive to me in a positive way. Very upbeat, which showed me he learned, he was positive, and then he was immediately affectionate. So he listened, he responded, he was positive, he was energetic. So he showed me certain behaviors, and the parents were good too. But again, I look at it like a tree. So I like to peel the tree. Another thing I like to do in interviews is I like to ask questions that people are not prepared for to see how they react. And I like to change the interview midstream to see how they react to change during an interview.
Well, so we should bring in a candidate's parents when we're interviewing people. Well, what they're like.
I do ask sometimes, I say to people, when you were 7 years old, what were you like? How did your neighbors describe you? How would your parents describe you? How would your best friends describe you at that point of your life? So again, these are not questions that everybody answers. And I was once at a party where I guess there were a lot of people there that had been interviewed with me over the years. And they started sort of like a mini game show. What was your interview like with Jeffrey?
Oh, no kidding. Really? You're famous, huh? Or infamous.
I mean, if you look at the two people who produced this radio show, I was a client of his for a couple of years. So he had serviced me many times from the other side of the table. And I saw his reaction to me many times in real life before I got to know him.
Yeah.
And the other person I played tennis with for many years, and I got to see his disposition under many situations and his reactions to things. And so I really took my time to get to know the personality of the person. Emotional intelligence would talk about that versus their resumes. Their resumes were fine.
Yeah. It's not just about the resume, though. But you make a good point, which is that you observe them in different situations and you noticed and maybe, made note of the way they reacted to certain circumstances. I mean, we can all be kind of big picture people and not really pay attention to those little nuances and remember them about a person. That they reacted badly to some comment that someone's made, or they're sensitive about a particular topic, or they're an optimist or a pessimist, or they suffer from depression, or whatever it is, or they have a bad relationship with their children. Whatever that little nuance is about that
Right.
person. Important to
Well,
know.
I don't like, I don't mind somebody who's somewhat of a worrier, as long as they're a person who still uses that worrying to get to their optimistic goals.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I think sometimes worriers, and he's not listening, I don't think he'll hear this segment, my business partner is the best worrier I know. He's always telling me all the obstacles to getting to the goals that I want to get to.
See, he's the devil's advocate, right?
Right. So
Yeah.
he calls me and he goes, I don't know if you're going to listen to me or not. And he goes, here are my issues. And he lists them. And I think they're great because all I have to do is eliminate all his obstacles. And I know I'll get to the solution.
I guess we need a person like that, right? Just to point us out, as long as he's not, it's not debilitating worry, which it is for some people.
He would tell you that he's the perfect yin to my yang.
That's a good partnership then, huh?
Right. So again, you talk a lot about leadership. We're going to have you on a lot about leadership, and you work with other leaders like yourself who've built firms. If somebody's looking for you, Hindell, how would they find you?
Well, my office is in Newton. It's Grossman and Associates Ltd. So that's one way. The GrossmanLTD.com is the website. The phone number is 969-0069, which is a catchy phone number for some people in Newton. And my email is Hindell, Hindell. Actually, if you just put my name into Google and the internet, probably you'll find me. I'm the only Hindell that's a lawyer, and probably anywhere.
Well, also, we just found out the facts that you are an excellent family litigator because you were coming on to talk about a topic and turned it around as a basis of asking me questions.
Yeah,
so
I'd love to share, Jeffrey.
Well, that's good. And I hope we do that a lot more over the next year.
Thanks for a good interview.
Continue reading, and I look forward to seeing you again. Remind everybody, we've been speaking with Hindell Grossman, owner of Grossman Associates. My name is Jeffrey Davis, and clearly I'm an open book. She asked me questions I never hesitated to answer.
Yeah, nice seeing you again.
Yeah, nice seeing you again, and we look forward to talking to you again on Radio Entrepreneurs.
Very good.